Australia, home to kangaroos, spiders that eat birds, Wolverine, and one of the greatest biological invasions of modern times. No, they're not talking about humans. They're talking about the prickly pear cactus. Hi world, I'm Gordy. It may be winter in Canada, but over here, it's hot tan Australia. Population, crikey, that's a reasonably sized knife. Cactus are notoriously good at surviving in arid climates, but despite looking like they should inhabit every dry piece of the world, all species of cactus are native to the Americas. That said, back in the 18th century, that didn't stop Australians from planting it across the land. One of the earliest recordings of the prickly pears being introduced to Australia was when a British governor brought a shipment of them over in the 1780s in an attempt to start an Australian cochineal dye industry. Cochineals are insects that feed on prickly pears and produce a bright red dye that was often used to color the red coats of the British Army, Skittles, and yogurt. In addition to using them as bug bait, farmers thought it was a good idea to start planting the prickly pear as fencing. Due to the lack of natural predators in the plant's tasty fruit, local fauna pooped its seeds across the land, quickly taking the prickly pear from a useful fence friend to a spiky force of destruction. By 1900, prickly pear infestations covered 15,000 square miles, and by 1920 had converted over 100,000 square miles of farmland into an impenetrable jungle of cactus. That's the equivalent to the entirety of the United Kingdom. All this knife. That's a reasonably sized knife. Dubbed by the locals as the Green Hell, it was growing at an estimated rate of 1 million hectares per year. This forced the farmers to abandon their land, in some cases allowing their homes to be crushed by the growth. As a result, the government attempted to burn, chop, and chemically destroy it, but nothing was effective. One suggestion after World War I was to use mustard gas to kill the wildlife around the cacti so the wildlife would no longer spread the seeds. This wouldn't kill the prickly pear, just everything around them. Finally, in 1924, the Commonwealth Prickly Pear Board decided to introduce the Cactoblactis cactorum moth to the area. This was a species of moth from South America whose name was literally Cactoblastis and whose larvae fed on the prickly pear cactus. Over the span of 5 years, over 2.2 billion eggs were released into this hellscape. Over the next decade, they rapidly cactoblasted their way through the population, reducing it to manageable levels.
Nowadays, the prickly pear cactus still lives in Australia, but is kept under control by the cactoblaster. Because of its effectiveness, other countries started introducing the moth to deal with their prickly pear infestations, allowing it to spread to North America as its own invasive species. These days, it's endangering many North American prickly pear species and their dependent ecosystems across the southern United States.
And yogurt.